Greetings from the frozen tundra, and welcome to a new episode of Josh's Car Corner. I'm out in the garage right now, and if you looked outside, you might still think it's December or January, but actually it is March 2nd, and I am still in the middle of a frozen hell up here in central Wisconsin. It is actually about 5 degrees outside right now. But I've been starting to make some slow progress on the GTO. A couple people have asked how things have been going after I did the hibernation episode, so I thought I'd do a video and let everybody know what's going on. Well, as you can see, the car right now is up on jack stands. It's been that way since shortly after I made the hibernation video. And the car is basically right now a shell. There's no engine. The engine's actually sitting right over there. It's all wrapped up. It's completely taken down to everything but a block and rotating assembly. The interior is completely stripped out. I gutted it. I took the seats and all the trim pieces out. I've been putting Dynamat on the rear deck lid and in the doors and filling up the sides where the side speakers are, just to keep some of the noise and vibration down and improve the stereo sound quality inside the car. The transmission's out of it. I was planning to do some upgrades to it and maybe have it rebuilt, but that's not going to happen this year. It might happen next year. And I'm basically just getting everything I need to put it back together right now. I've actually got sitting in the living room right now about $400 worth of new head bolts and gaskets and seals and everything needed to put the engine back together. The heads aren't here right now. The heads are actually at a shop. They're getting ported and polished with a 3-angle valve job, and then I'm going to get those back. I'm also going to upgrade the valve train in them. I'm going to put in new springs, new seals. The seals are starting to seep a little bit of oil. Going to go to a stronger push rod. Going to replace the lifters. I've already had my rockers upgraded. I got the trunnion upgrade kit from Comp Cams, and I've had the new trunnions pressed in, so the rockers are all ready to go. The only thing I'm not 100% sure of what I'm going to do yet is a camshaft. I thought about doing one, and then I thought I was starting to lose my focus a little bit of what I really want to do with the car, and it's going to add about $400 to the overall bill of what I want to do, and I'm not sure if I really need it for what I'm trying to accomplish with the car or not. If I did one, it would be very, very mild, something like 220, 224, no more than 580 lift, very small cam, because I don't need this thing to be a big horsepower monster. And as I said in my efficiency blog, once you start doing things like that, you start taking away from fuel economy, and I don't want to do that because I still am going to drive this thing quite a bit on the street, and I wanted to get good gas mileage. So I'm thinking I'm going to see what I can get out of just a stock cam motor. So I'll put the heads back on and I'll put the whole thing back together and see what a stock cam motor makes. Now, it already made 390 to the wheels last summer on the dyno. I've now got a CNC ported throttle body. It opens it up a little bit, but it keeps that lip on the bottom of the throttle body to help with your low RPM air velocity, so you don't lose too much low end. But it does open it up and it smooths it out to give you some better airflow. The intake manifold was already port matched to the heads, so that part's done. So I'm going to have about as free-flowing an air system as I could get short of buying a fast intake. But I can think of a lot better ways to make power for $800 than one of those fast intakes, and I just don't see the relevance of it for my application. So I'm probably never going to do that. The other thing I haven't ordered yet is I'm going to get some Holley valve covers to replace the factory ones that are really cool because they let you mount the ignition coils to them without the need of the big steel coil brackets. So that saves a couple of pounds on the engine, but it also gives it a very nice clean look that I want. I'm going to repaint the engine. I'm thinking about repainting the block Pontiac blue or possibly aluminum. I haven't decided yet. And just cleaning the whole engine up, making it look nice, and just making the whole engine bay look a lot nicer. I'm going to replace a bracket that was taken out when the headers were initially put in. I'm going to replace all the little broken pieces under the hood. There was a radiator hold down clip that was missing. I've got 5 new ones now because that's the only way you can buy them. One more thing I did was I had my header sent off to a company called Classic Coatings in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and they did a nice polished ceramic finish on them for me. There were some broken interior pieces in the car, some little plastic pieces that cover up the bolts for the seats that are going to be replaced and brand new. There was a piece of rocker trim that had some missing pieces broken off of it. I was able to find all of the interior pieces either through the dealer network or Vintage Parts Incorporated. GM has sent some of the GTO interior pieces that are now in low quantity. They take them out of the dealer network and sent them to this company called Vintage Parts Incorporated. It's where GM sends all of their low stock parts for discontinued cars when they don't want them in the dealer network anymore, and they can look them up in the dealer computers and say, well, you call up VPI. Their actual main warehouse where they store all their parts is right here in Wisconsin in a city called Beaver Dam, about less than an hour from here. So I've actually driven there a couple of times and gotten parts for previous cars, or they'll mail you parts, but I got the parts from them. So the interior will have all good pieces in them. Nothing will be broken or damaged anymore. It's basically just a mild restoration of the car, for a lack of a better word. I mean, it got repainted 2 years ago after the accident. The engine's basically getting a refresher. I'm not going to do anything with the rotating assembly. It's in good shape. The cam's in great shape. I don't really see a need. If I decide to change it, I'll change it, but I don't really see a need for wear reasons to change it. It would just be if I wanted to go for more power. And just replacing things that are known to be failure points, or points that tend to break down over time. Because remember, the engine at this point has 87,000 miles on it. So upgrading the valve train, getting the worn out springs out of there, replacing the lifters, which can go bad. They have been known to go bad. Stronger push rods, and all of that, because the idea is that once it's all back together, to be able to wind the motor up to 7,000 RPM without risking breaking or damaging anything. Now the bottom end can take that. It's built to handle that kind of a punishment, but it's the top end that lacks, especially with hydraulic lifters, because the problem with hydraulic lifters is they, actually, you know what? I'll go get a lifter and I'll show you. So this is one of the lifters from the engine, and they're these plastic lifter trays that hold them in place. And you can see they've got a flat edge on both sides, and that's what holds them in the tray to keep them from turning, because they've got a roller. That's what rides on the camshaft lobe, and that spins around, and then it's held in with that stud right there. It's got a cup in it. That's what the push rod sits in. But there's a hydraulic valley behind this where oil gets pumped in through this oil passage right here. And it basically, when the lifter goes up and starts pushing on the push rod, this hydraulic area absorbs that initial shock so it doesn't make a metallic noise that the knock sensors can pick up, and it just basically smooths it out and allows you to have a better cam profile that's more efficient, because this is absorbing some of that initial stress. So this cup collapses when the pressure starts initially building up, and keeps that metallic sound from occurring that you get with a solid lifter. There's a company called Brian Cooley Racing that sells LS7 lifters, but they actually take them apart and redesign them so the tolerances on these things are to within tens of thousandths of an inch, so they all perform equally and uniformly. Because factory lifters, their tolerances are good, but they could be better. So they go in and then they redesign them. So that's probably what I'm going to get. This is a lifter tray. This is what actually sits in the engine block and holds the lifters in place and keeps them from spinning. So like I showed you the flat edges, it's got the flat edges here, and that's what sits in these. Now, it's recommended anytime you change lifters or take the engine apart, you replace these things, because they are just plastic and they could conceivably wear out, or the plastic could get brittle and break and cause problems. Because the one thing you would never want is a lifter to spin in its journal, because if that roller turns and it doesn't spin on the cam properly, that'll cause all kinds of problems. Now, this is where the lifters go right here, and that's where these lifter trays go. The lifters sit in these bores right here, and then those are what make contact with the camshaft lobes, and then those are what move up and down, push the push rods that ultimately rotate the rockers, open and close the valves. You've also got the valley right here where all your positive crankcase ventilation occurs. There's a valley cover that sits here, and then your ventilation for your crankcase purge comes out of here. this is your main sprocket for your timing chain, and then this is your camshaft right here, and this is your timing set. So you've got your timing gear, which goes on your crankshaft, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio, so this is twice as big as that, so the camshaft spins at half engine speed. And this is basically just your tensioner, just basically a piece of plastic to keep the chain in line from flopping back and forth. And then that bolts to your camshaft, drives your timing set. This gear drives your timing set, and then that turns your camshaft and then runs your motor. Down here we've got the oil pan, and you can see here that the pan's got a baffle built into it. Now this is designed so it's got gaps in it all around, so when the oil flows back into the pan, it gets kind of trapped in here, and the pickup sits right on the bottom of the pan right here for the oil pump. And the whole idea is just to keep as much oil around the pump as possible so you don't starve it, lose oil pressure, and damage your motor. Now, the GTO is unusual to most LS motors in that it is a front sump. Most LS motors are a rear sump. So it's got this crossover section right here because all the pickups for the oil are on the back of the motor. So they have to run these pipes up to the front to relocate the filter to the front because it's a front sump and move everything forward. This only, as far as I know, this is only on the GTO. It might be on maybe a Trailblazer or something as well, but it's not, it's different to the Camaro or the Corvette in that it's front sump. So that's about it for this update video. I'm hoping to put the car back together in about 3 weeks. I'm gonna go down to Florida for a vacation, get out of this cold weather for a week, and then when I get back, hopefully my heads will be done and I can get them put back together. Whether or not I get a cam, I'll decide by then, and get the whole thing back together, and then I'm hoping by the end of March to have the whole thing back on the road and ready to drive. I'll have about a month to tune it and work out any kinks that develop, and then the first weekend of May is Road America once again. So, and you guys will be along for all that, and I'll let you know how progress is going, and hope you learned something with this video, and thanks for watching. I'll let you know how things progress. See you later.